What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and as we've all seen by now, Brigitte Lindholm was officially revealed and added to the PTR. And now that I've had a good bit of time to test her out and get a feel for her role and how she plays, I think my initial impression of her was wrong. So let's jump on into my post-play thoughts on the new hero and see how she's going to fit into the game. Real quick though, if this is your first time on my channel, then don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep up with all my future Overwatch content. Anyways, let's talk about Brigitte. So leading up to her release, one of the big things Jeff Kaplan said about Hero 27 was that they were going to be meta-changing, and given the strong presence of dive comp recently, most people assumed that they would counter dive. This led many to assume Hero 27 would be either a tank or a defense hero, but lo and behold, she was actually a support. The second in a row to be specific. This surprised just about everybody. And personally, my first impression was that she wasn't the dive counter we were all expecting. However, turns out I was wrong again. Brigitte is actually an incredible counter to dive. Between her ability to distribute armor, her personal shield, and her ability to knock back and stun opponents, she's actually quite effective against most dive heroes. Her ranged AoE melee attack is quite effective against mobile heroes like Genji, and as far as I can tell, she's an incredibly hard counter to D.Va. Her melee abilities bypass defense matrix, and her barrier, while small, is still incredibly effective at blocking D.Va's micro-missiles and self-destruct ultimate. Given D.Va's heavy presence in the meta currently, I'm eager to see how Brigitte might stir things up. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to counter Tracer as strongly as I would have liked, but maybe that's just me. If nothing else, that still gives some life to my whole flamethrower hero theory, so fingers crossed for that this coming summer. Anyways, sticking on topic, let's take a closer look at what exactly Brigitte does. While she's advertised as being a tank support hybrid, her placement in the support class of heroes definitely feels more appropriate. She's a support first and a tank second. While she definitely is best used as a secondary healer, much like Zenyatta or Lucio, she stands a much better chance at being her team's sole healer than her team's sole tank. Her tower shield barrier can't cover more than herself and maybe one other, and she lacks the large size and health pool of someone like Roadhog to function as a body blocker or damage soaker. So far, I've found that she seems to work really well in conjunction with Reinhardt, which seems appropriate enough, as she can easily defend him from anyone who gets too close or tries flanking around his barrier. In a similar fashion, she should also go great with Orisa too, but I haven't gotten the opportunity to play around much with that comp yet. Moving on now to Brigitte's abilities themselves, she certainly excels at close quarters. The only form of offensive range she has is her flail whip, which even then isn't much more long distance than Moira's lifesteal. However, at close range, she has quite a few options. As I said, her default attack has an area of effect in front of her, thus making it ideal for damaging mobile and multiple heroes. It's basically a cross between Reinhardt's hammer and Winston's Tesla cannon. It doesn't do much damage, but it's crucial for her ability to heal, which I'll discuss in just a second. Similar to her default attack is her whip shot ability, which, as I mentioned, is her only form of ranged damage, and also activates her passive healing. Speaking of healing, first she has her repair pack ability. This heals a decent amount of health and provides armor when overhealing. It works like Zen's orbs in that it auto-locks onto your target and actually can be quite effective when healing flankers or tanks on your team. It should be noted that the armor it provides when overhealing disappears after a short period of time, unlike the armor packs Torbjorn makes. Moving on now to her passive healing ability, this is only activated whenever she damages an enemy with her flail. Because of this, she feels very similar to Moira in that she has to do damage in order to consistently heal teammates. But furthermore, this is her only way to self-heal. While playing her, I often found myself trying to poke out and tap an enemy with my ranged flail whip just to try and heal myself in certain situations. I'm not sure yet how much of a weakness this really is, but it definitely emphasizes her own dependence on having another healer aside from herself. Her last main ability is her barrier shield, shield, which, having spent many hours playing Reinhardt, feels kind of awkward given its small size. Furthermore, the fact that shield bash is tied to having her barrier active feels unnatural, but I'm sure that's something I'll just have to get used to. Regardless, her barrier shield seems to be where her weaknesses are most evident. A lot of her counters seemingly take advantage of its small size and health pool, but I'll talk more about them a little later. As for actually using the shield, I've so far found myself having a hard time knowing when it should be used. It can only protect your teammates in certain situations, so I've often found myself using it while standing near corners so my DPS can get just a little bit extra space to peek out and take a shot. Otherwise, it seems like a decent way to save herself from many enemy ultimates, and I can't wait to see the inevitable video of an entire team surviving a D.Va ult by lining up behind her. The shield bash ability seems pretty decent, especially when you're being pressured at close range. If timed properly, it can even be an effective way to counter a charging Reinhardt or dashing Genji. Finally, talking about her ultimate, Rally might be the strongest part of her kit, and is her only ability that I could see as maybe needing some kind of nerf or tweaking before going to live servers. It feels incredibly similar to Lucio's sound barrier, and as far as I can tell, is best used in the same kind of situations. It's great for either initiating a push or intercepting one, and given its drawn out duration, it feels a lot easier to use effectively than Lucio's. And even better, the armor that allies gain during it remains even after the ult ends. Unlike her repair pack ability, this bonus armor never dissipates, and will remain until it's removed through taking damage. Now, about those counters. Just as Jeff said, I could honestly see her being meta-changing. While she's strong against flankers and dive heroes, she also seems incredibly weak against high damage sources and splash damage. Heroes like Junkrat, Pharah, and yes, especially Bastion, seem to be quite strong at countering her. The first two can easily use their splash damage to work around her small barrier shield, and as for Bastion, well, she literally has nothing to try and combat him. Aside from running up for a shield bash stun, he'll simply tear through her shield and armor. While I'm not convinced that this is the lucky break that Bastion deserves in terms of meta relevancy, I'm always happy to see him hold the upper hand in any matchup he can get. Additionally, I feel that snipers in general can counter her pretty well, not in that they excel at killing Brigitte specifically, but rather that she has no real way of protecting her teammates from them, or in any way striking back. Now, before I wrap up this video, let's just real quickly talk about something that I think some people were a little annoyed at, which is the fact that Hero 27 was, well, Brigitte. I definitely understand how taking a side character we've known about forever and suddenly making her a playable hero feels a little fan servicey. I personally didn't want her to ever be a hero, because I think it's really important to have some characters as just flavoring for the world and story as a whole. Not everyone with a name or a face needs to hold a place in the spotlight, and in fact, doing so can often detract from the overall storytelling experience. Also, out of these 6 post-release heroes we've gotten over the past 2 years, 5 of them have now been female. I want to remain as far as possible from ever making any of my content political, but I do think we could stand to see a bit more male representation amongst the recent hero additions. And at this point, I know I'm not alone in thinking this. However, despite how I felt upon initially seeing Brigitte as Hero 27, I'm more than willing to allow it. The reason being is that making this hero Brigitte was basically inevitable. As we all know by now, Blizzard designs a hero's kit first and then adds a character who matches. So assuming that Blizzard designed a paladin tank support hybrid like this, Brigitte simply fit too perfectly for it to be anyone else. And given that they've seemingly done a good job of weaving her character into the backstories of Torbjorn and Reinhardt, as well as Overwatch as a whole, I can't find any fault with them having added her. So far, I haven't found her personality to be particularly outstanding, but nonetheless, she seems like a good fit. I'm just hoping that Hero 28, regardless of their role or abilities, will be a dude and preferably will align with one of the many factions outside of Talon and Overwatch. So, in closing, I absolutely think that Brigitte was the right hero to add at this point in time, and I can't wait for her to come onto live servers for everyone to play. She may not carry the weight of a huge flagship character with regards to story or team composition, but I think she serves a great role as a literal support in both scenarios. Being a tank main personally, I can see myself playing quite a bit of her in the future, and I think Blizzard has, once again, made a great addition to Overwatch's hero roster. The same can't be said about how they horrendously botched her hero build-up and reveal, but I'll save that discussion for another video. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and be sure to leave your own thoughts about Brigitte down in the comments below. Do you think she's a good hero addition, or would you rather have seen someone else? Vote in today's poll card, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to both help out my channel and keep up with all my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.